Good morning, Rotarians and guests. Welcome to the Rotary Club of Hudson. I'm Ron Strobel, the Sergeant at Arms. Our invocation this morning is by Rich Warfield. Please rise.
I'm shy. What was that for, Ron? All right, everyone. Good morning. Please bow your heads for a quick prayer. Lord God, thank you for this time with these men and women, and bless this meeting and bless our speaker today. Please watch over him, and thank you for the food that this place has provided us, and let this food nourish our body. In your great and powerful name we pray. Amen. Thanks, Ron.
Thank you, Rich. And now to lead us in the pledge and the four-way test, Chris Barker.
Thank you. Good morning, Rotarians and friends. If you would first please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now, if you please join me in the four-way test of the things we think, say, and do. First, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? And fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? Thank you. We don't have any.
Okay. Thanks, Chris. And now we will be led by our past president, Pat Shearer.
Just as soon as you guys thought you got rid of me. All right. Our opening quote for the day. If you're offered a seat on a rocket ship, don't ask what seat, just get on. Sheryl Sandberg. There will be a club foundation meeting following next week, following the club meeting. We are continuing our monthly, for the month of August, service project benefiting the Akron Boys and Girls Club. They're looking for bounty paper towels, shelf-stable snack items like cereal, crackers, chips, video games. If anybody's doing some cleaning out and has video games that they may want to donate, they have a lot of older video game systems. They don't necessarily have the latest and greatest systems. And of course, if you have ever had kids that play video games, you know you need AA batteries for the remotes. So those are the things that that they're trying to collect. We'll be collecting those again next week, Wednesday. So if you have any of those things at home and would wish to contribute them, we would appreciate that. And I have no other further announcements at this time. So we'll have Doug McDowell come up and introduce our speaker.
Our speaker this morning is a good friend of mine, Mike Polovick. Mike is retired. He's presently president of Hudson Job Search. He also, since he's retired, he's involved as a board member of the University of Akron Human Resources Advisory Committee and facilitator of the Department of Job and Family Services, Summit County, Ohio Means Jobs Executive Networking Group. During his career, Mike was a career senior HR manager, most recently with Smithers Group. Other companies he worked for, Bridgestone, Pirelli, Continental Tire, and Lindy Gas, good Akron area type companies. I've worked with Mike for the last 15 years. I've been involved in Hudson Job Search for almost 30 years. I've always been amazed at that organization. We've had a very successful organization for almost 40 years. I'll let Mike give you the story, but two reasons I believe is that we've always had great volunteers and we've been very fortunate to have fantastic leadership. Pat Holden was involved years ago. I don't know if you know Pat, but then our own John Rustad ran it for a while. Joe Rustad, he was the moneymaker. And then Jim Ahern ran it, did a great job for a long time, really brought structure. And believe it or not, I am overly confident that Mike's going to carry it forward. Things are changing. We need a new approach and Mike's going to do it. So I'll turn it over to Mike.
Thank you, Doug. That's the nicest Doug's ever been to me. All right, next slide, please. Okay, well, Doug's already gone through this, so we could pass. Next. What I'd like to do is introduce you to Hudson Job Search. Next. Hudson Job Search is a team of volunteers. There's about 40 of us, and we help job seekers achieve their next job, all at no cost. Okay, that's a pretty significant thing that we do. Next slide. We're a nonprofit. We receive our funding from community service organizations, local churches and foundations, businesses and individuals. And I'd like to take this opportunity next to thank you all for your support through the years. We certainly appreciate that. And that's allowed us to continue to offer these services to so many. We are apolitical and non-denominational. Even though we get a number of funds from the local area churches, we support anyone who's looking for a job. Our mission is really to support job seekers find their next new employment. How many people have heard the expression, give a man a fish? Finish it for me, please. Right. And that's what we do at Hudson Job Search. We don't give people jobs. A lot of times people think, oh, they're going to get me my, no, we don't give them jobs. We teach people how to get jobs. And I can tell you as an HR professional, the way employers look for people today, especially after COVID, is dramatically different than what it was like during my entire career. It's significantly different. And if a job seeker doesn't understand that, doesn't know how to deal with that, they are not going to be successful. So that's one of the real things that we do that helps people out. Next. Now, how do we do this? We do this through a proven process. We, as Doug alluded to, we've developed a process through the years, and it involves one-to-one support. We have advisors that meet with each and every client or job seeker and works with them until they get a job. They help them with their resumes, with their marketing, their networking, their social media. Because again, in today's world, you have to have a presence on social media if you want to get a job. Interviews, both live and virtual. I talked to an advisor the other day. His client said, you know, Joe, I never even met my hiring manager before I took the job. Amazing. That would never happen years ago. So we also advise individuals on how to improve their offers that they receive, to make sure the offer is what they need. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we provide them with guidance on current job search processes. Next. So what's our secret sauce? Well, there's three things that are really key to our success. One is we have expert speaker meetings. So twice a month, we have outside experts come in and speak on how to do a resume, how to network, how to interview. So those are done once a month. Those are open to anyone. Then we have once a month, we have our advisors all get together. All 40 odd advisors get together in a meeting, and each one of us reviews our clients or our job seekers. And you know the adage about 6 degrees of separation, right? So if somebody's client's looking for someone to network with at Goodyear, for example, surely within that group of 40, there's going to be a contact for that individual. So that's the power of that meeting itself. It really is helpful. Or if an advisor is having a difficulty with their client, maybe someone else has experienced that before, so they can provide advice and counsel. So there's no one leader of Hudson Job Search. It's really the group as a whole. Okay, and that's really key to our secret sauce. And then finally, the last part is the advisor client meetings. And this is where if Doug had a job seeker, he would work with that individual. They would determine how often they were going to get together. Maybe it's once every 2 weeks. When they get together, Doug has two roles. One is to, excuse me, one is to be a coach, right? Because no one wakes up in the morning and says, hey, I want to look for a job, right? That's not fun. It's frustrating. It's difficult. And so Doug's role is to be a coach and to keep that person optimistic about their chances. The second thing that Doug does is he holds that he's an accountability partner. He holds that job seeker accountable to do the things that they agreed to do. So if Doug and the client say, hey, let's work on your resume, let's have that done, let's meet in 2 weeks and let's see how it looks. And if that client says, well, you know, I kind of was doing some housework, I painted the garage, you know, Doug's saying, no, that's not going to get you your job. You've got to get this done. So that's a real key, is that accountability partner. Next slide. So right now we're doing our meetings both in a hybrid fashion. So we meet at Christ Church Episcopal. They've remodeled their meeting room. It's a wonderful facility. They're kind enough to allow us to use that. But we also do it virtually as well through Zoom. Next. You might say, well, what's a typical client look like at Hudson Job Search? Well, mostly it's individuals who lost their jobs after 10 to 20 years of being employed. Their average age is generally between 40 and 60. But we also serve college grads, stay-at-home spouses returning to the workforce, anyone who's underemployed, right? They may have a job, but it's really not the right job for them. And then we also, and we're real proud of this, is we also service returning military individuals, right? It's very difficult for individuals who come back from the military and have a specific job within the military to see how that matches up in the private sector. We actually have a tool that we can use that's actually done by the government, and they can put in their military experience, and we can provide them with an entire list of opportunities that will match those skill sets. So it's a really wonderful tool for anyone who's returning from the military. Next, we have a proven track record. This is something, so this, you know, this may sound good, but as you know, is this just a lot of talk or does it really work? Well, next slide. For over 40 years, we've been around. And in that 40 years, we've benefited over 4,500 job seekers. We've assisted them in getting new employment. And that's helped their families and the Northeast Ohio community. Now, just to show you that this isn't just a goodwill effort, this also has a positive economic impact. Next slide. So I won't go through all the details, but generally speaking, for every $10,000 worth of income, it's going to take you about 10 months to get a job. Now, if you listen to the media, today they say anyone who wants a job can get one tomorrow. Well, that's true if you are in the restaurant business, right? Or if you're in manufacturing, factory employment. But for professional jobs, that's not necessarily the case. So if you take an example of a $100,000 salary, the average time to find a position is about 10 months. Now, our average has been, for the last year and currently, is 4 months for clients to get, or for job seekers to get a new job. So we've basically reduced that time by 6 months. So the wage loss that's overcome by that is around 60,000. And if you take 100 individuals times that 60,000, you're talking $6 million a year. And that's just for someone at a $100,000 salary. Obviously, it's going to be more if it's more. It's going to be less if the economic, but just to give you an idea of the impact that we've had through the years. Next slide. This is our website. We have a great amount of information on our website. It's available at hudsonjobsearch.org. Next. So we have a lot of information about us. We have videos, because guess what? In this day and age, not everybody likes to read. So everyone wants to see a video. Next slide. We also, on that website, we also have an events page which outlines who's going to be speaking and what they're going to be speaking about. There's an opportunity for you to register online for those events so we know who's coming. Next slide. We're pretty agnostic about where people get their help. So we have a page on our website that also lists other local job groups like Hudson Job Search throughout Northeast Ohio. So if you want to go to North Canton or you want to go to Solon, you know, we just want you to get the next job, right? That's our whole purpose. Next. We have some information on how to be an advisor, right? So we have a job description. We have a list of all these handsome folks there that are part of just a part of our advisory team. Next. And we also feature our advisors, right? Everybody wants to, you know, you don't want to just see a name, you know, so we feature our advisors on a regular basis. We do this on our social media sites as well as on our webpage. And we have a list of questions we've asked them so you can learn about their background, their experience, and so forth. Next. Then we also have a page on our website that's exclusively for advisors, which has all the information they need to help guide their job-seeking clients. Next. So here's like a resume review checklist. Next. Preparation for a mock interview, and that's one of the tools that we use. And one of the things that a lot of our clients tell us is one of the most helpful things, because it's amazing. Some individuals come back from an interview and say, hey, I did a great job. Then they don't get it there. They don't get the opportunity. And they do this on numerous occasions. So my favorite example, we had an individual, he was an IT expert, high-level IT professional. He was outstanding communicator, which oftentimes isn't the case when you have IT folks, right? Typically, they're more technically oriented, but he was a great communicator and he would get interviews, but he'd never get a job. And so we did a mock interview and we found out that when he was asked the question why he left his previous employer, he was clearly pretty angry about it still. And he didn't realize that. He didn't realize it was coming out. So once we corrected that, 2 weeks later, he got the job. He got his next job and he's been employed since then. So oftentimes people just don't realize the little things they do that knock them out of the box when it comes to getting that next job. Next slide. We also have, here's a Gantt chart. So it shows the advisor what steps to take along the way in guiding their client. So we have that real structure that we provide. Next. And then we have a bio for all our advisors. So we list, you know, information about them. So if I'm thinking, you know, I need somebody from First Energy, you know, I can look and see if there's any advisors that have experience at First Energy. But there's a lot of good information there about our advisors. Next. And then there's an opportunity here online to schedule your mock interview. So we don't have to pass a bunch of emails back and forth. Just go to the site. It notifies the affected parties, and then we come together and have the mock interview. Next. Now, people, when I talk about Hudson Job Search, people say to me, well, you know, it sounds really awesome. You know, how can I help? What can I do to make a difference? Next. Well, one of the key things you could do is to like, comment, or share on our social media. As Doug pointed out, some of the things that we're doing, you know, before, our primary means of communication or marketing our services was through word of mouth and through the Hudson Hub. Well, how many people under the age of 40 even know how to read a newspaper, right? Anymore? Nobody, they don't read newspapers. So one of the things that we've really begun working on in earnest is really getting our word out through social media, both on Facebook and LinkedIn and on YouTube. So if you go to our site and click on our LinkedIn or Facebook pages and share, comment, or like those, that would help us a great deal. Since we've done that, we've increased in the last month alone, we've had 16 new clients that we've had. And because of COVID and everything else, our client load had dropped to where we'd get maybe 1 or 2 a month. So it's starting to work for us. Another thing you could do is refer someone who's lost their job or who's unhappy in their job, right? And or if someone says, hey, you know, I've had a good career. I want to give back. I want to do something. Like we had, excuse me, one individual said, I want to give back, but I really don't want to go to a food pantry because I just don't want to put cans in a bag. I want to do something more than that. So she joined as an advisor and she's done a great job. So if you know someone in that similar situation wants to give back, this is a great way. And keep in mind, not everyone who's an advisor is in human resources or recruiting, right? We had Doug And Doug's he's the farthest thing from human resources I've ever seen, right? But Doug he's learned the process. He's learned the process, and he's done a great job with clients. And we have a process that we teach anyone, whether they're accountants, sales, finance, it doesn't matter. We can make you a good advisor. The key is to want to make a difference in someone's life. And that's what our advisors do. And anyone who wants to contribute to a good cause, if someone just says, hey, I'd like to contribute something financially, we're more than happy to take that as well. Next slide. I have this slide up here because I think this really, Doug talked about what makes a real difference with Hudson Job Search. Well, I think our advisors are really the successful key to Hudson Job Search. And this quote, I think, really embodies what our advisors are all about. It says, the purpose of life is not to be happy, it's to be useful, to be honorable, and to be compassionate, to have made some difference that you've lived and lived well. And I would tell you that if you talk to any of our clients, any of our job seekers that have landed a job, they will tell you that this is exactly what our advisors are all about. They make a difference. They really make a difference. Next. So I'm open for any questions if anyone has them at this time. And I certainly want to thank you all again. Thank you for your support. Thank you for the time to come here today and share our story. And like I say, I'll take any questions if anyone has any.
Good morning. This
Morning.
is probably more of a testimonial, but there is a question also. So about 20 years ago, when my company eliminated their office and offered us a move back east, and we didn't want to leave, but they did give us a very generous severance so that we could, look for jobs. And I went to Hudson Job Search. I ultimately got a job, not necessarily through Hudson Job Search, but going there just kind of and doing the mock interviews kind of gave that confidence. And the thing that impressed me at the time, there were a lot of people there. One was the amazing quality of the people there. We had engineers, marketing people, salespeople, managers. You could probably form your own company within the Hudson Job Search. If you wanted to start a new company, that would be the place to go. And I think a lot of them were there because they actually could get a job if they were willing to move, but a lot of them wanted to stay in the area. So it was really beneficial. And then, so I get the job, and then a couple years later, I get a call from a fellow who's got my name on Hudson Job Search and said they were interested in being head of IT. And I said, well, we have a head of IT, but we have a new CFO, and she's pretty knowledgeable. Maybe you could come in and do sort of an informational interview. And so I talked to her, and I said, oh, this guy's really well qualified, and all these background. And it turned out we actually were looking for a new head of IT, and so he's been there ever since. Also, his picture is in your picture advisor.
Oh, is that right?
Even the connections that even beyond the training and everything else you're doing, the connections I think
Right.
that exist through Hudson Job Search are really valuable. So my question is this: you've talked about differences in interviewing styles and what people are looking for. I'm just wondering, in terms of number of people looking for work, or the what the reasons are, have you seen that change over the years, or is it still a huge number of people there, or smaller, or what sort of trends are you seeing on
Well, it's interesting you asked that question. There's a group I mentioned there's about 16 different job search clubs in Northeast Ohio. And we've gotten together we started getting together on a quarterly basis shortly, about a year after just after the pandemic ended, if it ended, but, and each one of them has said that during the pandemic and even afterwards, even as things are tailing off, they were seeing far fewer people attend. In fact, one group was even thinking about going out of existence because they just weren't getting that many attendees. And we were facing that same problem. We probably had half of what we had normally. But like I said, I think due to a large part, I don't know, I'm listening to the radio this morning, they're talking about more and more companies starting to, beginning to make some layoffs. I don't know if it's that or if it's the fact that, we're doing more to communicate the fact that we exist, right? There's still a lot of people, all of us advisors, we think, hey, everybody knows about Hudson Job Search, but what we realize is, no, we really don't. So we're doing far more in terms of outreach to make sure people know who we are, what services we offer. And like I say, we've increased, the number of people that are applying for our services dramatically in the last month or two. Comes a former Hudson Job Search person. Uh-oh. he knows all our inside out stuff, right?
I know all those secrets.
That's right. Good to see you.
Good to see you, Mike. Question, back in the day, your job was maybe 80 or 90% of your life. And when you changed jobs, you went to where the next job the opportunity was. Today, based on everything that I read, maybe your job is 50% of your life and the rest of it's your family, your church, your outside activities. And when you add on to that the pandemic, which allowed people to work virtually from home, that must have changed the whole job market, both from the employer standpoint and also from the job seekers. I was wondering if you had any comments on that.
Yes, it clearly has changed it. I alluded to it earlier when I mentioned the fact that one individual was hired without ever meeting his employer in person, just met him virtually. Interviews take place virtually now. So, that's why I say the market has changed dramatically. There's even, I think everybody's probably familiar with a phone screen, right? Where you have the earlier phase of the interview conducted by typically a lower level HR employee who runs through a set of questions just to find out if you're qualified, meet the minimum qualifications to be considered for an interview. Well, nowadays, companies are sending out a email, and on that email is a link, and you click on that link and you go to it brings up a virtual camera, right? And you're given a question, and then it'll give you a timer and tell you how long you have to answer that question. And then it goes to the next question. And it's a wonderful thing as an HR person, it's wonderful because the logistics of trying to schedule anything with multiple people is difficult, right? So here you could send an email out to 10 people, say you have a week to complete this. And in the end of that week, I've got all the results back. But the fact of the matter is, job seekers, first time they see that, they like, what is this? And, so one of the things that we do is we have a actual simulation of this process, and we've got it recorded and we show people, right? And so they're aware of what's going on, so they're prepared for it. They can do better with it. But employers are using that type of technology. And I've talked to some consultants that are saying that they're actually developing the whole interview to be done that way and use artificial intelligence to actually make the decision for the hire. So things are continuing to evolve. I actually, a few years ago, we had a conference, Doug mentioned at the University of Akron, we had an HR conference there, and we had a consultant from one of the major firms come in and talk about the fact that they were using artificial intelligence. They would select resumes, they'd pick the best resumes, and then through artificial intelligence, they'd go out and look at the person's social media, and they would decide which was the best individual based on what they saw on social media. So the world is changing, but here at Hudson Job Search, we're going to change with it. We're going to make sure that our clients get the best information they need so they can get their jobs.
No, I was just going to say, I've said for many years, I think this is maybe one of the most important organizations in our community. I think you give hope and confidence to a lot of people at a time of life when they really need it. And I love the system you've got. It really clicked on me. I was looking through your checklist earlier today when you have it down to the basic blocking and tackling of handshake. I love that because I was thinking about that at graduation. We shake the hand. hands of all the students as they come across the stage. And I realize not every student has a grandfather like mine who taught me how to shake hands properly.
Right.
You know what I mean? A lot of dead fishes.
Yeah.
It's and then the other thing I think I remember learning a few years ago, you guys are able to run this organization extremely efficiently from a financial standpoint.
Yes.
You do not have a huge budget because it's mostly a volunteer organization.
Right.
But you do have financial needs, and I hope everybody listening to this will consider contributing to your organization. Because once again, I think one of the most important organizations in our community. And thank you for what you do.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I have to tell you, as long, and I've been in this for 16 years now as well. I've taken over from Jim Ahern as president back in September of last year. But there are a few things as heartwarming as some of the responses you get from the clients when they do land a job. When you see the notes they write, I mean, I've been in this for a long time. You think you'd get callous to it, but no, every time it happens, you think of that slide about making the fact that you're making a difference. You're making a difference in someone's life. And that's pretty powerful. Powerful stuff. Any other questions? Anybody ready to join up as an advisor? Doug? Yeah. Oh. All right, there we go.
I did have one other question. Is there a role for, beyond just liking you on social media, do you have a role for folks who maybe want to help, but maybe are not ready to be a full advisor of the program?
Absolutely. I'll give you, for instance, we have a leadership team. Initially, when Pat Holden did this, he did it all by himself. Same thing with Joe Rusnick, with Jim Ahern. Jim Ahern was told he'd do the job and take 5 hours a week, right? the big lie, right? So one of the things that we did, we formed a strategic planning committee back under Jim's watch, and we decided we're going to have a leadership team to split up some of the responsibilities. So we have somebody who helps us with IT things. We have somebody that helps us with marketing, with finance, and all that good stuff, fundraising programs. And so if somebody wants to contribute or wants to participate, just reach out to us and we can find a place for them. We're not going to turn away good talent. Right now we're interviewing an individual. She's looking for, she's outstanding in terms of development, right? Fundraising and development. And I want her to get a job quickly because I want to recruit her. I want to recruit her afterwards because she does a great job. Doug? I remember, Doug, you were going to be nice.
What Mike is referring to, there's groups in the job searches, the finance and accounting, sales guys on the one hand, and the HR people on the other hand, and they tend to sit across the table from each other. And there's some friendly comments over there.
Friendly comment.
But I would like to say, in my experience in the last 10 years, every time there's a bad situation, there's also opportunities. I've seen in the last 10, 15 years, a substantial increase in the number of women that have been out of the workforce for years that need to and want to get back in to the job. They had a professional career, they've got degrees, they might be a lawyer, they might be an accountant. And many times they're totally intimidated by getting back in. And there's also been bias by the hiring managers against women, typically, that have been out of the workforce for a number of years. They have no idea potential they're missing, but now they're forced to because there's not enough bodies around anymore. And there's not enough bodies with experience. The children are grown, they're going to college, they have another 20 years to work. They're not gonna, okay. And we're trying to do various ways to get these ladies, we're starting to put little information booths together at our churches to try to make people more and more aware. And if you in any way run into anybody in your travels that is looking to get back in the workforce that really, because we can get them back in the workforce. My next door neighbor raised 4 children. She was a lawyer, is a lawyer, kept her license up. She ended up being head of HR at Republic Steel. Who'd have thunk it? A lousy job. But you know what? It was the greatest job in the world for getting back in. Within 2 or 3 years, there's all kinds of companies coming to her. Okay, now, and she's got a much, much better job. But I mean, there's such potential out there. Okay, and we're trying to figure out how to get the message out. We've sent postcards out. We're starting presentations at churches. You know, your thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, that's one of the things when I came on board as president, one of the first things I did is I did a work with Jim, and we put together like a whole demographic profile of our advisors. And we found out 2 things. One, yeah, and we're about Doug's age. and you know, we figured out, you know, and I said, look, you know, just like any business, we have to look at attrition, right? What could happen? And if everyone who was retirement eligible from Hudson Job Search retired, we'd have 4 advisors left. So one of the first things I said is, look, we're going to have to start changing how we operate so we can recruit. And that's another thing. In the past, there was not an effort to recruit. We waited for people to come to us. I said, we're not going to get younger people. We're not going to get women. We're not going to get a more diverse group of advisors. And to Doug's point, you know, I like to think I'm pretty progressive, but you know, I'm almost 70. And if a woman's returning to the workforce, is how comfortable is she going to be working with me as opposed to someone who's more like her, right? Someone who's experienced what she's experienced. So we're looking for, and we're actively recruiting, as Doug mentioned, more advisors, different advisors, you know, that can represent other people that are looking for jobs. And let me say one thing, you know, I don't want to in any way give the impression that we don't appreciate the advisors that we have. They are talented, they are committed, you know, whether at Doug's age or not, they add real value to our organization. But at the same time, we want to build for the future and we want to add new people, and we're doing that. We're actively doing that. And we've got some, we just added a couple new advisors, one who's handling our marketing, and she's just done a phenomenal job, for us. So really good. We're really pleased. Other questions? See, Doug, she knows how to use a microphone.
I have a couple. What is the geographic boundary that you use for accepting clients?
That's a great question. In the past, our kind of guidelines was we would service anybody who either lived in or worshiped in Hudson. Okay, but there's something that I've always heard, and it's you don't light a candle and put a bushel basket over it, right? And one of the things, ever since I've been at Hudson Job Search, I've always been opposed to this artificial limit to what we can do. And so we've eliminated that. So we'll serve. We took care of somebody who was in Fort Wayne, Indiana. And again, one of the benefits of having virtual, you know, the only real benefit of COVID in my mind is the fact that we learned how to operate in a virtual world, right? And so we were providing that service to somebody even out of state.
And my second question has to do with not just women returning to the workforce, but people who have been displaced as a result of corporate close downs or migrations or whatever. And your comments about the interview process, which if you're not used to working with media, that could completely scare you out of your wits. And one of the things that I discovered, I was a university professor, and whether it was a graduate student who had come right straight through without work experience or a graduating senior, I discovered that they had no idea what an interview actually might be like. They didn't know how to dress. And I'm thinking, how many of them turned up for pajamas for their, to do their distance interview. So I finally made a lab where we did all of the, put them through the steps that they would need to deal with, just in terms of how to face an interview situation.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And so I'm very impressed with the checklists and all the sort of frameworks that you have, because even if you've been in the workforce for a long time, and one of my older son, his company shut down and went to Atlanta, and he was not about to go to Atlanta. So he had to do this thing after having been in the workforce for a long time, and he was in that age range. He didn't have a job search, but he had very good training. So he's happily and less stressfully employed right now that he doesn't have to lead a company. But I think one of the reasons I asked about the boundaries is he lives in Portage County. And I know that there's a lot of movement that's been going on in that arena, and I didn't know whether you went outside
We'd be happy to.
the boundary, but I think there are people who are at the stage where they need the kind of process that you're using. And as a female and I'm a scientist, so I came up where I was usually the only female in the room.
Right.
And that was a whole nother adventure. It's less that way now, but I think that some of the professional women that I'm dealing with on a sort of regular basis who happen to not be white and who are not used to dealing with, since I'm an old white broad, I can say old white men. But that is a reality for this region. It's particularly a reality in Hudson. So I'm glad to see that you're out hunting for additional.
Yeah, we're looking for a far more diverse group of
Yeah.
advisors. And again, I want to say, and that's why we're featuring the advisors we have. We want to recognize everybody and all the contributions they've made, but we definitely want to bring in a new group of individuals as well. That's the important thing. And to your point, it's interesting with a live interview, people wouldn't, they know that you want to dress sharp, you want to look right, you want to be prepared, but it's amazing when it goes virtual, they lose all sight of that. And so pajamas, whether it's pajamas or even how they have their cameras set up. So we teach them about lighting, we teach them about the camera position, we teach them all the tricks of doing a virtual interview, because first impressions are powerful. They are lasting. And while people understand it in a live situation, for some reason, it kind of like, it doesn't matter virtually. And so we have to say, yes, it does. And then we teach them how to do that. Yeah, no pajamas, or at least pajamas on the bottom, work on top.
So just going to add one thing. First of all, Jay Yard, I think we'll go ahead and get you some of those lessons there. But no, you look great. He's on.
Okay.
So one thing I was just going to throw out, I know that the job search is looking for the $100,000 a year jobs that are usually in the person's wheelhouse. But Tom and I are on the school board, and the schools are desperate for substitutes. So if someone wanted an interim position, we're looking for substitute teachers. It pays $130 a day if you don't need a teaching degree, any kind of bachelor's degree. And it may be something that someone would do in the interim. They may find that this is a passion that they want to do. And in terms of practicing being in front of others, there is no more on stage than being a teacher for a day. So anyway, just throwing that out there, because we're talking to our retirees, we're talking to professionals maybe who are just want to do something part-time. But anyway.
Good to
throw that
know.
out there.
Yeah, yeah, we'll definitely keep that in mind. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mike. Appreciate you being here today and for our program. Before you sit down, we're going to have you make a new friend in the room. We'll let you pick one of these tickets.
Just so it's not Doug's.
So, it's a yellow one, so it's not me. So we have our Roebuck raffle today. Payout is $9. Jackpot is 172. And the last four, it's a yellow ticket, 484. 484, 599, 484. It's a yellow ticket. All right, there you go. Okay, okay. All right. Come on up and draw your marble to see if you get the jackpot. I'll meet you halfway. Ralph, we're coming. All right, there's the envelope. Take the envelope and there's some, see if you can find that black marble in there. It is not the black marble, so the funds will continue. All right. And Mike, I didn't get the chance to ask you your question, but one of the sectors in the economy that was hit hardest during the downturn because of COVID was the nonprofit sector. One of the areas that's coming back the fastest right now is the nonprofit sector. So anybody in the nonprofit sector, we're always looking for employees. So, and it's a different animal than the finance guys. So if there's people that are interested in that, I'd be happy to talk with them what life is like in the nonprofit sector too. So, and each of the nonprofits are a different a little bit too that way. All right. You almost got rid of me and you didn't get rid of me. So therefore there is a dad joke today. And Mimi, roll your eyes back to the front of your head. Okay. So why don't ants get sick? Because they have little antibodies.